I'm excited to share with you today a subject that's so very dear to me and should be to you as athletes. Ironically, one of our sponsors for today's message is the U.S. Army, and what a great sponsor for today's message. Today we're going to talk about the concept of teamwork. Teamwork is absolutely critical in sports, business, relationships, and just about any activity that involves more than one person and a task that needs to be completed. I mentioned a second ago that one of our sponsors for this lesson is the U.S. Army. Talk about a great example of teamwork. As an athlete in high school and later at the University of Mississippi, I've been on teams that had great teamwork and camaraderie, and others that just didn't quite get it. It's no accident that our records on those teams clearly showed which teams understood the value of teamwork and which ones didn't.
2nd and 5, and here's Beck trying to pick up a touchdown in the air. He gets it to the rookie running back, Jason Cook from Ole Miss. So one of Parade Jerry's college teammates has just got the touchdown pass from John Beck to put the Ravens up on the board here. And that first possession for Baltimore was pretty impressive. 14 plays.
Let's pause for a minute and make sure we all understand a couple of key points that Jack Williams mentions in his message on team dynamics. But I think they're worth saying again. I want to start with the first part of the word teamwork. Team. Today, a lot of people throw that word around very loosely. They talk about their team, or they're going to form a team, etc. Let's be clear up front. You don't just throw a group of people together and call them a team. Team is a sacred word to me and should be for you. And you don't flippantly call yourself a team. You have to earn the right to become a team. And the process of earning the right to be called a team is not an easy process and requires a tremendous amount of focus, commitment, sacrifice, perseverance, and leadership. That's where you come in. Well, how do you do that, Jason? Well, I'm glad that you asked. What has to occur to earn the right to become a team? That's what we're going to briefly talk about today. We could have a series of sessions on this topic because it's so important, but today I'm going to try to simplify what needs to be done in a way hopefully it can be easy to remember. First, let's go back to a definition of teamwork Jack Williams uses in the session on team dynamics because, again, I think it's worth repeating to set the stage for our discussion. This definition actually originated from West Point, the U.S. military academy and home of the Army cadets. Teamwork occurs when all members of the team are proficient in what they do and have mutual respect and trust for one another. This definition points to three things that have to be present. The first is the word all. It doesn't say some of the members or a few. It says all. Everybody has to believe and be committed. The next key word is proficient. That means that the members have to be good at what they do. They all have to be contributors in some way. Every person has a role, and all roles are important and must be carried out as if they're going to function them as a team. The last component states that the team must demonstrate mutual trust and respect among the team members. This might be the toughest component to achieve. This occurs over time and has to be earned one person at a time. We're going to talk about the concept of trust a little later. So to summarize three key components according to West Point's definition of teamwork: 1, all members must be involved and committed to the task. They must be proficient, good at something, and carry out their role. And finally, they must trust and respect each other. Let's now break the word teamwork into two words and talk about each one. The first part of the word teamwork is obviously the word team. I want to share some key points about being a team that I think will go along nicely with the West Point definition that we discussed. I'm going to share them again in a way that I hope will be easy to remember and apply. Let's take each letter of the word team and break it down by letter. T. T stands for trust. I said a minute ago that we were going to talk about that word a little more, and here it is. No group of people become a team until they have an element of trust among them. In order to develop trust with a group of people, each person in that group needs to demonstrate to the others that they are trustworthy. In college, every coach asks his players three questions. Can I trust you? Are you committed? And do you care? There's no secret as to why trust was the first and biggest question of the three. So here's the first of three exercises we'd like for you to complete. Take a minute and discuss in your small groups what are some things a person can do to become trustworthy in the eyes of their teammates. I'm sure you came up with a great list. I want to now share a few things that I hope were on your list. Be dependable, demonstrate accountability, be honest, do what you say you're going to do, take your responsibilities seriously, show respect for others. And I'm sure you had some other items on your list as well. So the first thing you need to do is for each member to become trustworthy. E stands for execution. Nothing happens until a group of people are able to execute. Strategy is great, goals are great, desire is great, talent is great. But if you don't carry out the activities or assignments that are necessary to meet your objective, then you're just a group of people with talent that have great goals, but are just going through the motions. Jack Williams uses a phrase that sums up these kinds of people. He says they're all hooey and no dooey. They talk a good game, but they don't deliver. Their mouths write checks that their butts can't cash. Let me be clear. Goal setting is a lot easier than goal doing. Sometimes the heart is right and the effort is right, but the group is inconsistent, or maybe they're just not being honest with themselves and are not facing reality. They've convinced themselves that what they're doing will get them to where they want to go, but in reality, it won't. Great teams deal with reality every day and ask themselves, is what we're doing what really needs to be done to get us closer to our goal? If not, they change what they're doing. We need to remember, great teams are in the performance business, not the reason why business. They know the importance of execution and do what's necessary to learn how to do just that, execute. A stands for accountability, the ugly A word. A lot of people like responsibility, but don't like the accountability that goes along with it. One has to go with the other. Being accountable first starts with a clear understanding of what the expectations are. You can't hold people accountable if they don't know what's expected of them. There has to be clarity. Bill Belichick of the New England Patriots has only one thing for his team and everyone in the New England Patriot organization. It's a simple thing to remember. Do your job. The reason they are one of the most successful teams in the NFL year after year is because Coach Belichick has disciplined himself and others to clearly spell out in great detail what every person in that organization's role is. In other words, what's expected of them. He does the same with each member of his coaching staff and his team. They are clear on what he expects them to do because he took the time to study and what needs to be done to be successful and then broke those responsibilities down to each person. He then can tell them with confidence, this is your job. Now that he's assigned them the right jobs and he's made them clear to every member of the organization and team, then he can expect them to be responsible and hold them accountable. It starts with determining what needs to be done, explaining that to each person, and then and only then can you hold them accountable. The last point on accountability is you have to be consistent in holding people accountable on your team. You can't have one set of standards sometime and another set of standards another time. Determine what's important based on what needs to be done to accomplish your goals, and then be consistent in your efforts in holding people accountable to those standards and expectations. Now we come to the second of 3 exercises. Take a minute and discuss among your small groups these questions. Do the members of your teams know what is expected of them? Has your team set the right standards to help them reach their goal? And finally, as a leader, are you willing to risk relationships in order to hold your teammates accountable? Take a minute and discuss these in your groups. M stands for mission over me. This is where it really gets tough for a lot of people. Let me say this point again. M stands for mission over me. Unfortunately, in today's society, it's all about the individual. Everything centers around me. What will make me happy? What's best for me? What can someone do for me? And as athletes, this concept is even more visible because of all the attention athletes receive. You are a highly visible group of people on your school campus. Other students and people in the community know your name and who you are. It's a nice feeling, but it can also be the death blow to creating a great team. In high school, One of the problems the high school coaches face is players and parents are more concerned about getting a scholarship than being focused on how the team does. Now, don't get me wrong. I wanted a scholarship when I was in high school and I got one, but I wasn't willing to have the team sacrifice to achieve my personal goal. I realized that the more successful the team was, the better it was for all the members of the team. The success of the team had to come first. If that happened, we all won. It didn't mean everybody got a scholarship, but not everybody had the talent to get a scholarship anyway. But they did have the talent to carry out their role on the team in order for the team to achieve its goals. To become a true team as a leader, you must stress the team goals and mission must be the first priority. And your role as a leader is to preach it, walk the talk, and make sure that you and other leaders react quickly when you feel someone is placing their goals above those of the team. I can tell you firsthand as a high school and later college player, I didn't want to face a team whose team members placed the team first and themselves second. They were strong and relentless. Why? Because every man played like they had something to lose. That's a competitor I'd rather not have to play against. Okay, so we talked about the first part of the word teamwork. Now let's talk about the second part, work. This will be short and sweet because you can have great trust, superior execution, strong accountability, and a team mindset. But if you don't work, nothing good is going to happen. Nothing happens till the work starts. I remember an old saying I heard, even a mosquito doesn't get a slap on the back until it starts working. The same holds true for your teams. There is no substitute for work at all. In today's athletic environment, it seems the work is almost year-round. I know as an athlete that what happens in the off-season plays a major role in the success of the team. And I might go even further and say that leadership, commitment, spirit, and work in the off-season will determine the outcome of your season. The seasonal activities are so structured that usually putting in the hours is not a problem. The off-season, on the other hand, it's a time where a lot of teams get slack and don't do what's needed to become the team that they say they want to be. That's a leadership issue. That's your job to make sure that doesn't happen. So, in closing, let's summarize the key points. In order to become a successful team, you must develop trust and each member be trustworthy and demonstrate trust to teammates. A team must execute. All members must know their role and carry it out. A team must have accountability by first making sure that everyone is clear about what is expected when holding each other accountable. Remember, do your job. A team must have a team mindset first and place their personal goals second. And finally, a team must work. There is absolutely no substitute for it. You gotta work. Congratulations for being selected to represent your respective sports. Now, as their leader, it's your responsibility to make sure you become the team that we just described. I want to wish you all good luck, and your facilitator will now lead you through the last exercise.
They lead across frozen rivers, from island to island, to build hope and carry on the ideals of a nation. Officers in the U.S. Army can rise to any challenge. They bring out the best in others and themselves. Can you? Start leading at goarmy.com/officer. There's strong, and then there's Army Strong.